this is an extremely vital point. This is an extremely delicate point. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ, third ayah, مَنْ يُجَادِلُ فِي اللَّهِ بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ وَيَتَّبِعْ كُلَّ شَيْطَانٍ مَرِيدٍ. And amongst the people are those who argue about Allah and dispute about Allah with no knowledge. About the religion. They have no knowledge. And they just keep on speaking and giving their opinion. Now come to the 8th ayah. The 8th ayah, quickly. What does it read? وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يُجَادِلُ فِي اللَّهِ بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. Exact same ayah. Exact same thing. I mean, couple of verses down, Allah is repeating Himself. Why? But no. This is what I want to tell you of the difference. Then Allah says, بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ وَلَا هُدًى وَلَا كِتَابٍ مُنِيرٍ. Without guidance, they are lost and confused. Then Allah says, again, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ, the 11th ayah. Those are the clues that you must look for in the Quran. And this is how you have to read the Quran. So Allah begins with Ya Ayyuhan Nas. And the 3rd, He speaks of Ya Ayyuhan Nas. The 8th, He speaks of Ya Ayyuhan Nas. The 11th, He says Ya Ayyuhan Nas. What is He saying? وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ عَلَى حَرْفٍ فَإِنْ أَصَابَهُ خَيْرٌ اطْمَأَنَّ بِهِ وَإِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ فِتْنَةٌ انْقَلَبَ عَلَى وَجْهِهِ. He worships Allah only when things are good. He loves Allah when everything is good, when he's comfortable, when there is nothing wrong. As soon as there is a test, as soon as there is a small, slight difficulty or problem, no. He doesn't want Allah. Why? How is there an Allah? How is there a God if I'm ill? As if He's the center of creation. How is there a God if He doesn't answer my prayers? How is there a God if there is, for example, illness or poverty, or I lost my job, or my wife is about to divorce me? Then he doesn't know God. But why does Allah use the word ilm? I tell you, I'll give you an advice. Every time you find the word ilm in the Quran, pause. Pause and think about it. Explore the word ilm, because this book's ultimate goal and objective is ilm, is knowledge. It's nothing else. Knowledge, spirituality with knowledge, not spirituality without knowledge. Charity with knowledge, worship with knowledge. But knowledge is always there once the Quran speaks. And today we find that there are so many problems, brothers and sisters, in our community, especially the Muslim community that are the immigrants that have come here and they have seen a different part of life. We have realized there is a lot more to life than what we see back home and what people see back home. So new questions arise. We have new questions. For example, I'll tell you one of them. Today, there are many scholars, Islamic laws, regulations that tell you, begin your food with salt and end your food with salt. Good. There are other laws that tell you, for example, do not drink so much water. We have hadiths that refrains us from drinking so much water because that damages our body. But you try sitting here and convincing people to not to drink so much water because the whole world is telling them drink more water. Try to convince, doctors. When a person comes to them, and you know how they always tell you, drink water, that's what the doctors say. And you tell them, don't drink water, please. Because why? Because the hadith says don't drink water. We have a dilemma. So what do? Do you listen to your doctor or do you listen to the hadith? Ilm, knowledge, is meant to be a guide. Is meant to illuminate the way that we see things, the way we make decisions. It's not meant to make things so complicated that I'm sitting there confused. My doctor's telling me something, And this Islamic law is telling me something else. How do I, for example, make those decisions? Life has become so complicated. And sometimes, especially if it doesn't make sense, then people will just slowly shy away and say bye-bye. To religion, obviously. And then they'll go do their thing, and then they'll just become less religious day by day, and then... Because it doesn't make sense. Why don't I have to drink a lot? What's wrong with drinking water? That is why when we come to ilm today, it is different than the ilm 1,000 years ago, 700 years ago, 500 years ago. What is ilm today? Ilm today tells you, look at the hadith of Ahl al-Bayt, see in what circumstance did they tell people to begin with salt and end with salt. They said this when people were living in the Arabian Peninsula, in the desert, living in tents, sweating in the day, sweating in the night, sweating in the afternoon, losing all the salts of their body. So they come, and where were they? I mean, people going to the imams, they would come from Bahrain, they would come from the middle of that area, that hot area. So the imam says, for you to be healthy, start with salt, end with salt. Nobody came from the cold countries, from Europe, to the imam, and the imam told him, begin with salt and end with salt. Or at the time when the imam says drink less water, it's because when you are sleeping in your bed and you need to use the restroom in the middle of the night, you have to walk 15 minutes. So people weren't going to the bathroom, and what happens? Obviously, that's more damaging to your body. But now that you walk out of your bed 2 steps and you're sitting on the bathroom, on the toilet seat, go ahead, drink water, enjoy the water. There's no problem in that. It's how we define ilm today that will attract people to the religion of Islam. If we do not bring in an understanding of the circumstance of how to give that ilm and how to spread that ilm and how to define that ilm and how to understand that ilm, then there will be a disunity, a lack of connection between the seminary and the ulama and the people and the masses. And that's how you find people being bored of the religion of Islam, losing touch with the religion of Islam. This is something I want to emphasize on, the methodology of ilm. So Allah says, those people who have no ilm, every time there's a misery, they leave Islam. Every time they get a paycheck, they come back to Islam. We don't want to be amongst those people. That is why we have to redefine ilm and reintroduce ilm. But I say that to you with one sentence. You only do that through this book. If we return to this book, then we can truly introduce ilm to our communities and perfect the community. If the community revolves around the Holy Quran and understands the spirit of the Holy Quran, because this speaks of the words of Allah. This speaks of the way that you ought to live. This speaks of the way that you have to make your decisions. That is why Amir al-Mu'mineen wa Mawla al-Muwahhideen, in a night like this, just before his last moments, he gathered Al-Hasan and Hussein and his family and the closest of his companions, and he said this wasiyah to them. Allah, Allah bil-Quran. لا يسبقنكم العمل به غيركم. Do not allow anyone to precede you in implementing the Quran. Be the first to implement the Quran. Then he says, اجعلوه إمامكم. O Hassan and Hussein, let the Quran be your imam. Let the Quran be your guide. This is the wasiyah of Amir al-Mu'mineen. If you want to make the heart of Amir al-Mu'mineen happy, then you follow his last words and his wasiyah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.